Good evening and welcome to Talk of the Town. Happy New Year to all of you. Our regular host, Bernard Terrence Devaney, otherwise known as Terry, is now at our South Florida Bureau. So I'm Len Lucci with the law firm of O'Malley, Miles, Nyland, and Gilmore. Pleased to moderate this show. On my left is Lynn Skirpon, also with the law firm of O'Malley, Miles, Nyland, and Gilmore. And on my right is an imposter for Fred Robinson. I think maybe it really is Fred Robinson. I can't tell whether.
And he does not work for O'Malley Miles.
No, the mayor extraordinaire of the city of Bowie. Lots has happened since we last saw you, and the federal and the state and the county level. So why don't we work nationally and work our way down? Anybody see that debate the other night with the Republican candidates?
I watched part of it, and I saw some of the clips that I hadn't watched live, and it was interesting. I think the old Gingrich came out, blasting everybody. The surprise for me was, what's his name, your goofy buddy?
Ron Paul.
Ron Paul, standing up in front of an audience in South Carolina saying, we have to preach to the people in the Middle East and they'll be nice to us. He actually got booed, when he started talking about we're too aggressive. And I think the audience really interpreted his words poorly. But I thought from the clips I saw, it was everybody beat up on Romney, but it seemed like he was doing okay. But it looked to me like Gingrich must have been energized before the event because he looked like he was clearly not going to. His mission was to knock off Santorum and Perry, and because if he can't do that, I don't know how he goes forward. If he can do that, he might have a chance.
Yeah, he had his adrenaline shot before the debate last night. What do you think is going to happen? Can they stop Romney?
I don't think so. I didn't see the debate, but I read and listened to certain clips. I think the Romney train is out of the station. I think it's just about a fait accompli.
Mm-hmm. Conservative vote seems to be too split, I guess, to be able to stop him.
Well, my sense is that Romney comes out of South Carolina with a win, probably maybe in the 30-point range. But he's leading in Florida by 20 points over everybody. And then he goes to Nevada next, and then there's a series of caucuses in Missouri and Massachusetts and Maine, I guess, and Missouri. I'm like you. I don't see how he gets to. He's the only one that's registered as a candidate in all of those states. The Gingrich and all lost a federal lawsuit last week.
Virginia,
trying to get on the Virginia ballot. The interesting thing, now you two lawyers can explain this to me. I have a governor of Texas who says, I'm states' rights, states' rights, states' rights. And Virginia has a clear and direct policy on how you get on the ballot. And when he didn't meet that standard, the first thing he did was run to the feds and say, you got to tell that state they got to let me in.
That's great.
What am I missing?
I still think Rick Perry is going to pull it out.
I think Rick Perry is more likely to pull out. I think he'll be the next to go. Nice. I kind of like the guy. I admire his military background, and he's done obviously a credible job in Texas, but he just hasn't been able to connect with people.
Isn't that amazing? He seemed like the perfect candidate.
Yeah, on paper, he does look like a great candidate.
Just like I guess 4 years ago, they thought Fred Thompson would be the perfect candidate.
Yeah. Put him in that pickup truck and drive all over.
And now he's doing commercials for some insurance company.
Yeah, reverse mortgages.
Right. But I think Romney is the perfect candidate for the Democrats. Right? We're the 99%. He's the 1%. He's the perfect. What did the Huntsman call him? The lubricated weather vane. Back and forth on every social issue.
Yeah, former candidate who has now endorsed Romney.
Yeah, right. So he has a bit of weather vane himself.
Yeah, I read in one of the papers today, which surprised me. Apparently, Romney in the last election went to Huntsman for some help in the last election, and apparently had a very candid conversation and actually shared some campaign strategy with him. And then he turned around and endorsed McCain in the last election. And then kind of, went at him this side, and now all of a sudden they're friends again. I don't know how all this stuff works.
Right. Yeah. Well, just like how Romney was dragging McCain all around the place as his big supporter when those two guys can't stand each other.
Yeah.
And the other night on TV, on the debate, Romney was bashing McCain-Feingold, the law, that is Buddy McCain wrote. I was thinking, what's McCain going to do now? He's going to blow a cork. But,
Yeah. Well, what do they say about, strange bedfellows, I guess.
yeah, so I think Romney will probably nail it on the January 31st Florida primary. Will be over by then, I think.
I think so. And then I think you're going to see both parties moving in. I was watching a show the other night where the pretty respectable groups of people talking, clearly the conservative or liberal thing. But the consensus of the group seems to be the national election will be decided on who's most successful in setting the tone. If the president can make the campaign about Mr. Romney, then he's likely to win. If Mr. Romney can make the campaign about the president, then he wins 40 states. So and I don't know, maybe that sounds pretty plausible to me.
I think it's very similar to the 2004 race between Bush and Kerry, where it's the first time the public says, we don't like you, Bush, but we're voting for you because you've convinced us that the other guy is kind of scary and wishy-washy.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what's going to happen
The
here,
lesser
too.
of two evils.
Yeah. Now, if you look at the 2008 election map, I think it's going to be different in a few ways. I think Romney has a better chance in some of the New England states that McCain lost. And I think that Obama has a better chance in some of the southwestern states with the Latino vote that that he lost to McCain last time. I think he can even win Arizona because McCain won't be on the ballot and there's such a heavy Latino vote there.
That's always possible. I got to see some more evidence to see that, but I mean, I'm just not sure. We've had this discussion before. I just don't see any of the McCain states, with maybe that possible exception, that are going to go to Obama this time. The question is, can he hold on to Wisconsin and Indiana and Ohio and Pennsylvania and Florida? That's where the challenge is going to be. Yeah. If he holds on to all those, he can win. If he can't hold on, if he loses 2 or 3 of them, it's over.
Yeah, so we'll see.
So it ought to be fun. Bring your billions of dollars with you and your super PACs.
Let me just say something about the super PACs, because this is what really got on my nerves when I watched Romney in the debate. Romney says, I can't talk to my PAC to tell them to stop the ad because then I'll be collaborating. Well, that's the whole point. If you want to stop the ad, you talk to the PAC, then they have to take it down because you've now talked to them. I mean, that's the only way. If you want to really get that ad down because it's wrong, you talk to them, you tell them to do it, and then they have to do it because now you have collaboration, and it's no longer legal to broadcast that ad. So he could do it very easily. And he said, "Oh, I can't."
Yeah, I would think that if any of the candidates said publicly, "I don't like this ad," whomever put it up, and I would request that it be taken down, I think that's easy enough to do. And I don't see any legal conflict that's going to blow back to the candidate to do that. The argument that I can't do that because, I'm just not sure that holds water.
Yeah, I don't think so either. So, what do you say we talk about what's going on in the state level? How about that? The legislature is 1 week in. The governor submits his budget tomorrow. There's some thoughts about what's going to be in the budget. It may include a sales tax increase of a penny. It may include a gas tax. It's supposed to include a tax on little flavored cigars and chewing tobacco because they're taxed at a lower rate than cigarettes.
I didn't know that.
I think any projected income from table games, may be at play.
Interesting. I was over in the Eastern Shore last week, and I was reading the paper there. The casino there at right outside Ocean City grossed $44 million last year, and I guess 30% of that goes to the state, and the rest goes to the operator or whatever. And the operators are saying they're losing money because they only netted $15 million or something over a year's operation. So even if they're grossing $40 or $50 million a year at that facility, and if they open table games there, assuming that they add another 50% or even another 100% of the growth, if they're not going to make any money on it, what's the effect?
I mean, it's kind of fool's gold, In a recession, there's only so much disposable income out there to spend. And if we have other Maryland locations, I'm not sure how much more Prince George's could get. Now, Prince George's, Rosecroft is located near Virginia, so I guess you could argue you get some more business that way.
And if National Harbor is talked about, they can draw from international travelers. That's a whole wider set of people.
I've always assumed that there was going to be casino gambling over there and in Baltimore, probably down the convention center area or something like that, and maybe one other place in the state. And then the slots will be scattered in other 4 or 5. My guess is that's the ultimate goal of the gambling proponents. And they keep, remember last year they were saying we were going to be making $400 or $500 million a year off of these. Well, that hasn't even, they haven't come close to that number yet. So I agree with you in a large way that some of these numbers are, I don't know, just unreal. But if this one site does in fact generate $40+ million a year and can't make and they say that they're not making a profit, it's scary to think how much they have to generate before they start making money.
Yep. They grab us all by our ankles and shake, right?
But on the good side, I consider everybody that does this, that's a self-imposed tax as far as I'm concerned. I've gone in, I don't have the moral aversions of the slots that a lot of people have. I just don't think about them. But if you want to go play slots, knock your socks off, and why don't you just save the effort, just write the state a check.
Yeah. Also on the state level, we have a contested primary in just a few more months on April 3rd between U.S. Senator Benjamin Cardin and State Senator C. Anthony Muse, who announced, and this past week at the state party luncheon, after all the speakers finished, Senator Muse seized the microphone and told everyone why he thought it was inappropriate for Congressman Hoyer and Governor O'Malley to endorse Senator Cardin at a state party luncheon when the state party is supposed to stay impartial until after the primary. So can Muse catch fire? I mean, how much of the vote can he get in the primary election in just a couple of months from now?
He's got a hill to climb. He's got a lot of assets. He's a smart guy. He's a great speaker. A great family, and he has that great base that a lot of extends from his church group and from his senatorial district. To translate that into a statewide base, to run against the incumbent U.S. senator, who was an incumbent congressman for that, and was the Speaker of the House of Delegates before that, who has that base across the state. In a way, it's reminiscent of the Republicans running against Romney. Here you got a guy that's very well organized, very well funded, and very well experienced, running against even the most talented guy. I don't think anybody can overestimate the challenge. Can it be done? Sure. But will it? I don't know.
I think Senator Cardin would have to implode like some of the Republican candidates have been. I don't think that's going to happen, especially with the support of Hoyer and the governor, and some catastrophe would have to befall him.
Well, if you remember in the last election, the Prince George's County Council supported his opponent.
That's true.
They supported his Republican opponent, and he still won. So, it's interesting.
As in his first race for Senate.
Exactly.
I think this time it's a whole lot harder.
Yeah, my guess is, even the Prince George's County Council will be supportive of the incumbent United States Senator. Now,
Senator Muse says that how he can win is because the minority makeup of the Democratic primary is about 50% of the electorate, and that there are no African American U.S. senators anywhere in the whole country, and Prince George's hasn't had a U.S. senator in decades, and neither has Montgomery County in decades. And so he thinks he can convince people that now is his time. But it's still, even though it's a compact state, it's still a very big state, and it costs millions of dollars to get your message out, and we'll find out soon how much he's actually raised.
And the time is
when
short.
is the primary? April 1st?
April 3rd.
April 3rd.
April 3rd. So he's got 90 days.
Right.
And really, he should be in session
Right.
for those 90 days.
Yeah. Can he do it for all of those reasons? Yeah, it's possible. I just, you just have to suggest that he'd have to hit, the perfect
storm.
It's good word. And even if he does well in Prince George's, does he have time and the money to translate that across the state? If you're looking at TV time and media time in the Baltimore region, on the Eastern Shore region, where there you're buying, I guess what, Philadelphia mail, all that stuff. It is expensive. I have no idea what it costs to run a United States Senate primary race now, but I'm sure there's a lot of seven-figure numbers in there. Which, by the way, leads me, to my silly thing. We were talking about taxes earlier. I have a great idea. How about if we take all campaign contributions and tax them at the highest marginal rate, 30% or so that if you raise $1 billion or $10 million, if you raise $10 million to run for a statewide office in Maryland, 30% of that ought to go in there, and we could pay the teachers with that.
What a great idea.
And any money left in your campaign fund every December 31st would be subject to a 10% warehouse fee.
I think there'd be a lot of support for that.
A lot of local support.
Yeah, there wouldn't be one vote.
None in the legislature.
So we thought there would be another race on April 3rd as well between Congresswoman Donna Edwards and former state's attorney Glenn Ivey, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I saw that.
Wonder why?
I heard they just had too much trouble raising money, which is, you hate to say it, is the essential ingredient. If you can't raise money and get your message out, no matter how good the message is, it doesn't work. Particularly in that level. Local races, it's still retail. You go knock on the door and talk to people. But you can't do that in a congressional district, without taking 2 years to do it.
And again, going back to the Cardin-Anthony Muse race, he would be running against an incumbent. Now, she's only a one-term, right? One-term incumbent.
She's one-term, yeah.
But still, that's tough. It's really tough to take on an incumbent. Although Glenn, if anybody could, Glenn has the name recognition in this county.
Very personable, very smart,
right?
Great speaker. I think he would have been a formidable candidate.
I do too.
But like I said, the stories that I heard, and you may be in a better position to know than I, but I just heard that he was just having real problems raising money.
So now let's take our issues down into the weeds, and that is redistricting for Bowie and the environs. The governor proposed to the legislature on the first day of the session a redistricting plan that takes a slash and slashes right through Bowie and takes a piece of Bowie out with our two Bowie incumbents, and then most of Bowie is left in another district represented by two non-Bowie incumbents. So he proposed that on the first day of the session. The legislature has to either pass it or amend it or turn it down within 180 days. If it does nothing, within 45 days. If it does nothing within 45 days, it becomes the law. And so what do you think about that? Is that a good move? What does it do for Bowie? And
it is not a good move for Bowie. I have delivered that message to both the governor and the speaker, and anybody else that has the misfortune to answer their phone. The confusing thing is that they say the argument is to increase minority participation in the district. Well, we've already achieved that. And like I told somebody, take the Dick Nixon approach, declare victory and move on. District 23 is a majority minority district. So to impose this, to take this north-south line and put part of Bowie in 23A over there, and that part will constitute about 20% of A, we will guarantee that we will lose one of our delegates, and there's a high probability you could lose both of them. And then take the rest of Bowie, which will become about 40% of the remaining subregion 23B, and both of the potential incumbents in that race live well outside of the city. So it could be that the fourth or fifth largest city in the state would not have a resident delegate. And I just think that's unacceptable. But so far, everybody just seems to be moving. There's this inertia that, oh, gee, we've got it done, so therefore we can't amend it.
now this line that goes through Bowie doesn't even go through, use precinct lines or street lanes. It just winds its way and tears through neighborhoods and through small streets.
You actually have some precincts separated.
Right.
Whether you're on this side of the street or that side, they basically use go 197 and what's on the west side goes into 23A, and what's on the east side basically goes into 23B. And then 23B will stretch from Bowie State University south to almost to Brandywine, south of Baden, and then it'll go up the Route 4 corridor to Andrews Air Force Base. And if that is not, I think the word I used in my letter to the governor was peculiar. I think peculiar is an understated word to describe 23B. But the buzz, that I hear, and people, they're already calling it the Incumbent Protection Act. And what it's done is just trying to look at existing delegates outside of the city and protect them, clearly at the expense of the city.
The last census, we had 3 incumbents put into a district for 2 people, and we lost a great delegate, Joan Pitkin, from serving us in public office. Now we're taking 2 great delegates, Jim Hubbard and Geraldine Valentino, and putting them in a district where only one of them can win. It's a sad situation for the city. Now, unlike the federal constitution, the state constitution says that redistricting must respect geographical boundaries, municipal lines, and communities of interest. So you're a scholar. Lynn, you think there might be a case to overturn it with the Court of Appeals?
The municipal lines have been ignored, destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can't make, if the case is, or the statute says, that they should keep it on. What the argument's going to be, well, we left you in the same senatorial district, so you're all in one senatorial district. Yeah, but what you've done is you put us into 2 subregions and basically severed, the city into 2 components, and we will become the minority in both of those sub-districts. So clearly, I think there's a legitimacy to your argument that it doesn't meet either the intent of the law or the letter of the law in terms of recognizing political boundaries. We've said to the governor and others that we believe that 23B is a very peculiarly shaped district. We can, if we have to, we can live with that. But to put this A and B in there and render our influence or our input into future things is just, not only is unfair, it's just highly inappropriate.
So the county council's come back into session, and they've elected a new chair, Andrea Harrison from Springdale, and our councilwoman, who's been the chair, Ingrid Turner, is ascended now to be the president of the Maryland Association of Counties. And top among the agenda, among the agenda items for the county council is consideration of ethics reform and the recommendations of the Smoke Commission that came out last year with a bunch of recommendations. There's been some ethics laws passed already last year by the General Assembly. What more can the county do to protect against recurrence of what we've witnessed with the perp walks to the courthouse the past several months?
Well, how about right off the bat say that county council incumbents and candidates cannot take money from people that they regulate in campaign contribution. If you limit the problem, maybe you could, if you limit the challenge in that regard and the intoxication of that money, then maybe you could start chipping away at this problem. Like the city, in the city, you cannot take, a city candidate cannot take money from a business enterprise. You can take money from an individual business person, but you can't. And the neat thing we do, we have to close our accounts out at the end of the election, which is what would be nice if the county did. Because no slush funds, no money from people that they regulate, and certainly no money from the development business.
The way that they've gotten around those kind of laws in the past, though, has been to form these slates where a member of the slate who doesn't have such regulations can accept the money on behalf of the slate, and then it's shared by the entire slate.
Then what you go back
and now that loophole's been closed by the legislature last year. So because our firm does development work, I have to say, oh shucks, when council members ask for contributions because my firm's in that business.
Yeah. So, which I mean, I don't mean to denigrate that business and that industry. It's important, but there's been this historic link there that leads into what we've just seen. In the political process where it overlaps with the criminal process. So, there's opportunity there to do some good things, but the inertia is let's not.
What else is coming up for the county? Their county executives going to Annapolis to ask for funding for a new hospital someplace in central Prince George's County. They're already asking for the certificate of need. University of Maryland Medical System says they're all ready to make this happen. The CEO of the Dimensions Hospital System is on administrative leave while former Attorney General Steve Sachs is looking at his dealings with a former county executive. So, what kind of future do you think our hospital system has?
Life support.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it seems like the timing is right that the state and the
should.
university and the county all want to
Yeah.
are ready to put the money into it.
Yeah. It
If there-
should
if
happen.
there's money to be-
It should happen. You know, this is one area where I think the governor's been very supportive, the legislature's been very supportive. It's taken a long time for the county council to get on board, because I thought they were the biggest villain for the longest time, because they were holding on to these property ownership issues at the Chevrolet facility. I think they've gotten by that now. And I think it not only should it be done, it's got to be done. I mean, you're talking about life or death decision-making things at this point. And you're right, there's too many people of goodwill, you know, in the hospital system or whatever that want to get it done. I don't know why we can't.
And that's the final word. And look forward to seeing you next month. Hello, Terry. Watch us on YouTube and have a great night.
Yeah, watch the sunburn.